For 6 long years, the world was consumed by the deadliest conflict in human history. Cities burned, nations collapsed, and millions of lives were lost. But in 1945, the war that changed the world finally came to an end. The Second World War began in 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. Within months, the conflict spread across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Entire nations were pulled into a war unlike anything the world had ever seen. By the early 1940s, the war had turned much of the world into a battlefield. Cities were reduced to rubble, families were separated, and millions of soldiers fought on land, at sea, and in the air. The cost of the war was unimaginable. In 1945, the tide of the war finally turned against Nazi Germany. Allied forces pushed toward Berlin from the west, while Soviet troops advanced from the east. After months of brutal fighting, Berlin fell and Germany surrendered. On May 8, 1945, the war in Europe officially ended. The day became known as Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day. Across the world, people poured into the streets to celebrate the end of years of suffering. But while Europe celebrated peace, the war continued in the Pacific. Japan refused to surrender, and fierce battles raged across remote islands and vast oceans. Desperate to end the war quickly, the United States turned to a powerful and terrifying new weapon, the atomic bomb. It was a weapon capable of destroying an entire city in seconds. On August 6, 1945, an American bomber dropped the first atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. In an instant, the city was devastated, and tens of thousands of people lost their lives. Just 3 days later, a second atomic bomb was dropped on the city of Nagasaki. The destruction was immense, and the world witnessed the terrifying power of nuclear weapons. Facing unimaginable destruction, Japan made a historic decision. On August 15, 1945, Japan announced its surrender, bringing the Second World War to an end. Across the globe, people celebrated what became known as Victory over Japan Day, or VJ Day. After years of war, the world could finally begin to heal. World War II left behind a changed world. Over 70 million people had died, and entire cities were destroyed. In the aftermath, nations came together to form new alliances and organizations to prevent another global conflict. The end of World War II marked not just the end of a devastating war, but the beginning of a new chapter in human history. The lessons of that conflict continue to shape the world we live in today.